simply because we're only a half lap away from the green flag. The pace car leads the field down the backstretch, led by Dale Earnhardt on the pole position and Mark Martin to the outside. Bobby Scruggs, the official flagman for the Busch Grand National Series, will be giving them the green flag as they come around. They're in turn number 4 right now. The pace car is still on the track. Now it takes a dive toward the infield and pit road, and here comes the field. The spectators rise to their feet. Scruggs looks them over. He gives them the green flag, and we are underway. The Busch 200 Grand National Race from Bristol International Raceway. All the cars have made it through turns 1 and 2, and here's the completion of lap number 1 with Earnhardt leading. And a man on the move in the early going is Rusty Wallace. He has moved up to 3rd. The first 2 cars, Brett Bodine and Dale Earnhardt, there they are, have moved out by about 5 car lengths ahead of Rusty Wallace. Falling into 4th position is Mark Martin, and then Rob Moroso.
Bob, in that shot coming out of turn number 4, there are the leaders. You've got a real quick glimpse of the car running in 5th. That's Rob Moroso. A lot of people thought he might back up real quick. There you see him on the far right-hand side of your screen. But young Moroso has been practicing a great deal the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I felt that he would be strong, and he's got a solid 5th place going right now. But up front, as you can see, Brett Bodine is following Dale Earnhardt as he has since the parade lap.
So when the green flag dropped, Dale Earnhardt stayed in the lead after starting from the pole position. Mark Martin has dropped back to 4th. Brett Bodine from 3rd to 2nd, and Rusty Wallace from 4th to 3rd. And there is Harry Gant in car number 7 moving up through traffic, racing alongside Donnie Allison. Ahead of them is Robert Ingram.
Bob, Harry got a horrendous start. He's unofficially about in 20th or 22nd right now after starting in 8th position. We were watching up front. I don't know if Harry made a miscalculation in the early stages or if he's had a problem, but right now he's ducking under Patty Moise, the young lady driver who has qualified here. A very tough racetrack for her to make. She did a tremendously admirable job this week, but Harry seems to be back up the full song and now challenging Robert Ingram.
He was 21st when he passed Patty Moise and Donnie Allison. He moved up to 20th spot, now working on Robert Ingram Jr. in car number 1. Harry Gant, the pole sitter for tomorrow's Winston Cup race. He qualified for this event in 8th, but as Larry mentioned, had a horrendous start and dropped all the way back to the middle of the field and even beyond that. Now he's down underneath Robert Ingram Jr. as the cars move out of turn number 2 and down the backstretch. Ingram, at least for the moment, holding off Harry Gant's challenge as they're turning laps right around 114 miles an hour. The pole sitting speed 117 by Dale Earnhardt.
Now, put that into perspective. There goes Harry Gant looking to the inside of Robert Ingram as they come out of number 2 down to very short. And Harry Gant and Ingram touch going through 3 and 4. Harry gets out of the throttle, leaves Robert going. There is no foul that's called, but he has loosened up the back bumper significantly on Robert's car. Robert Ingram, NASCAR officials will be keeping their eyes peeled on that.
Let's go down to Jerry Punch in the pit area.
Robbie Moroso, the young driver, making his first Busch Grand National start here. Certainly a lot of drivers were a little bit concerned. He's running up toward the front, and he may actually hold some of the veterans up early in the race. Moroso now getting passed by Larry Pearson and Brad Teague trying to make a move on Moroso. That was a spot for 5th place, but meanwhile, he has held those cars up enough that the 4 cars up front have been able to pull away.
Look at Rusty Wallace on the high side of the racetrack. Challenged Brett Bodine for that 2nd spot. They crossed the line. And once again, Wallace is going to make a challenge for that 2nd spot, but now falls in behind Brett Bodine. Great racing going on throughout the racetrack.
And slow traffic up front. Jimmy Lawson has pulled to the infield. He had some debris. He's out of the way. He's now into the pit, and you can see that they have already moved up to lap traffic.
Earnhardt continuing to set the pace, but now Brett Bodine and Rusty Wallace are right behind him, and Mark Martin still running 4th. Larry Pearson has moved up to 5th position. In 6th is Moroso, 7th Brad Teague, 8th is Jack Ingram, 9th Morgan Shepherd, and 10th is Mike Alexander.
Dale Earnhardt is now right behind the number 09 car of Ed Barrier, and he is smoking heavily. It does not look like engine. It looks
yellow,
almost like tire rub. We got a yellow flag.
It could be because of debris on the racetrack, and it could have been because of some contact we had out there as Harry Gant.
It was Jimmy Lawson, I think, Bob. I mentioned that Lawson had slowed down significantly and really held back the tail end of the field. He ducked into the pits, and I think it came off of Lawson's car.
So the field is slowed here after 21 laps of racing. It's Dale Earnhardt and Brett Bodine running up front. We'll be back in just a moment with more of the Budweiser 200. The yellow flag is being displayed here at Bristol because of debris up in turn number 3. There, the top 5, Earnhardt, Bodine, Rusty Wallace, Mark Martin, and Larry Pearson. Now, Tommy Houston has come in for a pit stop. Several cars have made pit stops during this caution period, but Tommy was running right up there in the 17th position.
Yeah, Bobby came in and they changed tires on the left side and redistributed the weight. I saw the hood go up and the jack being cranked around to redistribute the weight, but Tommy is accustomed to running much closer to the front, so I'm sure that's what he certainly has in mind.
Well, Brett Bodine jumped from his 3rd starting position up to the number 2 spot right behind Dale Earnhardt at the drop of the green flag.
Brett, this is Larry Newberg again up at ESPN. So far, I'd say things are going, I guess, according to plan, following that black and silver car, eh?
Yeah, Larry, that's just about what's going on. Looks to me like Dale's getting a little loose. I think if I put a little pressure on him, I can make him wear that right rear tire out.
Brett, we saw Rusty move up and start the challenge. Was that an error in the 00 car, or is Wallace running that strong?
No, going into the 3rd turn, Larry, a piece of lead fell off one of them lap cars, and Dale and I saw it. I don't believe Rusty could, and we slowed up, backed off. We didn't know where to go. We were trying to just avoid him running over that piece of lead, and that's what let Rusty catch up.
Well, as they say down here in the South, it looks like the 3 of you are fixing to have a pretty good race.
Oh, I can imagine. These 2 guys are pretty tough, and we're going to have to get this Thomas Brothers car around here pretty good to run with them.
Okay, Brett, keep it between the walls, buddy.
Kenny Schrader sitting here in the Patty Moise pits, and Kenny, I understand you may go in the car.
Well, I kind of doubt if we'll have to. We're just standing by in case she needs relief, but she's been doing a real good job, and I'm sure she's going to make all 200 laps. We're just a little extra safety device sitting here.
This will be her first start ever in a Busch Grand National race. She tried to start at Daytona, but had transmission problems, couldn't get the car to start. She comes here to Bristol, probably the toughest track on all the circuit to drive, and has Kenny Schrader standing by.
Patty Moise started in 20th position. Here comes the field set for more green flag racing. She started in 20th and is still running in 20th position. We had word that the green would come out this time. It will not. There'll be at least one more lap before we get back to racing. The number 62 car, driven by John Linville, was held at the starting line under this caution period for 1 lap because he was seen passing the leader under caution.
Bob, some of our southern stock car viewers may not be as familiar with Patty as many of the other people are around the country. She is not a young, inexperienced driver. As a matter of fact, she's a strong racer, and she's been running on the IMSA series, running most notably in the Kelly Girl series, and running consistently in the top 5.
Well, Morgan Shepherd in car number 97 currently runs in 8th spot. He was the defending champion of this race going in last year, beating all of the others. Now, here comes the field. It's going to be interesting to see what Bodine does here at the start and what Rusty Wallace does. Earnhardt coming off the 4th turn. They get the green flag. Rusty Wallace dropping to the inside of Brett Bodine. They're going to go side by side into turn 1. Rusty can't make the pass. Bodine stays in that 2nd position.
I think Jeff was the guy who got, or excuse me, Brett was the guy who got the weak start on that trio. As you can see, Dale has torn away by about 6 to 8 car lengths, and Rusty almost caught Brett at the drop of the green.
Rages for that 2nd spot between Brett Bodine and Rusty Wallace. Wallace moving right up on the rear bumper of the 00 car driven by Bodine.
Bob, I don't think that we can talk too much.
Oh, we have a spin.
It's Robbie Moroso.
Oh, a terrible
Very hard hit. Robbie Moroso going into the outside turn 2 wall.
And another car is spinning. Oh, and serious contact. The number 41 Max Prestwood went into the Robbie Moroso car that had already hit the wall hard coming out of turn number 2.
Yeah, Robbie was battling with that group of cars that we were referring to earlier, and he went into the outside turn 2 wall at about a 45-degree angle, and then as the car was spinning down the backstretch, Max Prestwood drilled him on the left side,
Well, the car actually became airborne as it hit that wall, the front end going way up in the air, and it appeared for a moment there that the car was going to flip on over, but it did not. It slid down to the middle of the racetrack and then was broadsided by the 41 car of Max Presswood. Both of those cars now are to the inside of the racetrack in turn 3. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Young Robbie Moroso still sitting in the car. Safety crews there immediately on the scene as the NASCAR official ran across pit road. They have already gone inside the car and are attending to Robbie Moroso. Also, Max Presswood's car involved, sitting some 15 or 20 feet up toward turn 3. He's the car that came across and ricocheted off Moroso. Presswood, a former late model stock car driving ace from nearby Hickory, North Carolina. So 3 cars involved. Brad Teague's car sitting there. The ambulances and safety crews are on the scene.
We'll take a replay of it and see what happened. Moroso and Brad Teague were battling literally side by side. Brad went to the inside coming off the second corner.
There is a significant bump right there on the speedway, and as you can see, Robbie going in at almost better than a 45-degree angle. Morgan Shepherd sneaking through. The veteran Jack Ingram looking for a home. Mike slows down. L.G. Ottinger goes through.
And then here comes the Prestwood car and slams Robbie Moroso right in the driver's compartment.
Yeah, Mike Alexander was the black car that was sneaking through. Here is from a ground level. You can see Robbie's car going way up in the air after he hits the wall. Everybody is scrambling now, hard on the brakes. Robbie's car is spinning down. There goes the yellow car. Ottinger through. Alexander goes through. You can see Presswood is spinning out of control and slams right into the driver's side there as we go down the backstretch here of this half-mile racetrack. I was about to say, and there is Robbie Moroso.
Great.
Wow.
Well, he survived quite a ride, but he is walking to the ambulance, and that is terrific news. The number 41 car of Max Presswood slamming into him, but look at the excellent driving displayed by many of the drivers, getting through small holes and managing to get through without any major
Max.
damage.
Dale Jarrett was another one of those drivers who went through there, and Bob, I'll tell you, we see an awful lot of racing action, and the way the Moroso car held up has to be one of the most impressive performances we have seen this year. I am very surprised and extremely pleased to see Moroso walking around.
We have
quite
seen
amazing.
both Prestwood and Moroso out of their cars walking to the ambulance. Obviously no serious injury. Back in a moment. We are still under yellow at the Budweiser 200 at Bristol, Tennessee. There are your top 5, Earnhardt, Bodine, Wallace, Martin, and Larry Pearson. Now, tomorrow, don't forget, we'll have the Winston Cup race from here at Bristol live for you beginning at 1 o'clock. And Harry Gant has won the pole position for that race, but the man to beat has to be, again, Dale Earnhardt. We are under caution because of a yellow flag and a wreck. Not only will we have the Valleydale 500 Winston Cup for you at 1 o'clock, but then the Brazilian Grand Prix at Rio de Janeiro at 4 o'clock, right after our live coverage of the race here as the Formula One season begins again. The accident involving Max Prestwood and Robbie Moroso and Brad Teague, but all have walked to the ambulance. So while we remain under caution, we'll take this break and be right back. Bristol International Raceway in Tennessee is the location for the Budweiser 200 that we're televising live for you today here on ESPN. We have completed 31 laps of this race, and we are still under caution. They're cleaning up the debris on the backstretch. 2 cars very heavily damaged, and Brad Teague, who came into the pits after the crash, couldn't refire and lost a few laps. And that certainly hurts him in the point standings because he was 3rd coming in. Here's Jerry Punch.
We are standing by the infield care center. Both Rob Moroso and Max Presswood, the 2 drivers that took the hardest licks over in turn 2, have been taken by the paramedics inside to be checked out as a precaution. We mentioned both Robbie Moroso and Max Presswood climbed from their cars of their own volition. They climbed out. Presswood was complaining a little bit of a left shoulder problem. He gave his wife a big hug and a smile prior to going into the care center. Moroso winked at us as he came by. Both drivers seem to be okay. An exceptional series of accidents over in turn 2, and a great call for that roll cage and the safety features here that keep these drivers fine when they take an impact like that.
All right, thank you, Jerry. There is Robbie Moroso's car on a hauler being taken off of the racetrack, and Prestwood's car is at the rear end of a wrecker being taken from the track.
Bob, having seen the impact, the car looks much better than I thought it would. That car must be put together with super glue originally, because it really withstood a tremendous impact well.
Well, Rob Moroso spun during a qualifying or a practice attempt actually yesterday, and his race is over here early today. Now a NASCAR ESPN Track Fact. Track Facts are brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer.
All of these fancy setups and exotic metals, and what it really takes to make these cars go is good old air, carburation. Now, the standard is 390 carb. That's 390 CFM. That's cubic foot per minute. Now, on this car of Jack Ingram's, they've come up with a new setup for this week. The carburation is mounted at a 45-degree angle to the direction of travel. Now, what the crew hopes is that this will allow the fuel to flow more efficiently down into the engine block. They think that not only will it create more horsepower, but also burn more economically. What they also hope is that they have created a monster. Big question is, what kind of monster? Bob, they've had that since last fall. Just got approved by NASCAR for this weekend.
The number 11 car is the one we used in that Track Fact. That's driven by Jack Ingram, and he is running 7th. We're at Bristol International Raceway for the Budweiser 200 Grand National Race.
Still under yellow at Bristol International Raceway, and we're looking at the wall coming out of turn number 2 where young Robbie Moroso collided. The wall at this point is one of its 2 lowest heights all the way around this racetrack. It's probably no more than 2.5 feet tall, and just to the right you can see it's about another foot taller, and just to the left the wall also ascends very quickly. That might have lessened the severity of the crash for young Robbie Moroso, and Jerry is down there right now.
Well, here's the front end of Rob Moroso's car. This was an Oldsmobile Sierra. You see where the car impacted the wall and it shoved the front end part of the engine compartment back in. But the most important part of this whole story, and the good part, is that the safety requirements on this car, you see the roll cage. Take a look at the steering wheel here. Rob Moroso had a hold of that steering wheel. It is padded, and because of the padding that NASCAR requires and the way the wheel is put in and the roll cage, the entire driver compartment remained intact, and Robbie Moroso walked away from this accident essentially unscathed.
We're going to take a look at the crash another time. It occurred coming out of turn number 2 as Robbie Moroso was on the top side and Brad Teagan 75 low.
Yeah, I truly do believe that Rob Moroso, being one of the younger drivers on the trail, did contribute to this. In that situation, my call would be, if that was a veteran, it would have been the veteran's responsibility to give Teague room. Now, Teague did hit Moroso, but on a high bank racetrack, particularly coming around that corner, you can see Max Presswood sliding in there. There's a little bump, and you have to give people a little more room than you normally do. So, yes, Brad Teague did get under and hit Rob, but I do believe that there was some responsibility on Rob's behalf. It's a difficult call to make when you're not sitting in the cockpit. He should have moved over and given just a little more room.
All right, Larry, also, wouldn't a veteran driver have probably let the car spin to the inside of the racetrack rather than correcting and taking himself right into the wall?
If he'd had a chance, Bob, I don't know that Robbie had a chance to correct it, but like at all the high banks, the idea is to move over.
Okay, let's take a look at the top 20 at this time with the 38 laps completed. Earnhardt, Bodine, Wallace, Martin, and Pearson make up the top 5. Running 6 through 10, Morgan Shepherd, Jack Ingram, Mike Alexander, L.D. Ottinger, and Dale Jarrett. 11th is Jimmy Hensley, 12th Rick Mast, 13th Bobby Dragon, Elton Sawyer 14th, and Harry Gant 15th. Then 16 through 20, Patty Moise, Donnie Allison, Robbie Faggart, Robert Ingram, and Tommy Houston. We'll go green next time around.
One comment, we'll get away from the accident situation. Let's talk about the potential number of pit stops. Some of the cars in the field felt they could go the entire distance on one load of fuel. We have actually given up on the normal tire rule that did not allow you to change 4 tires in the yellow flag here. That has been relaxed for this race. You can come in and change tires, but the long yellow may mean that somebody, almost everybody, can go the distance on one load of fuel.
Once again, Rusty Wallace goes inside of Brett Bodine as they race into turn number 1. This time they're more side-by-side than they were coming off the last yellow. But still, Brett Bodine holds off Rusty Wallace's challenge. Dale Earnhardt, meanwhile, continues to hang on to that lead.
There's Morgan Shepherd moving in. It was interesting on that first lap under green, we saw Shepherd, or make that Rusty Wallace and Brett Bodine in exactly the same kind of move that caused the accident just before the yellow flag.
And going to the back of the pack like a rock is Larry Pearson. He was 5th when the green came out, and he's already dropped back to 10th position. So obviously, Larry Pearson with a problem on that restart, as there's the Jack Ingram car.
And Morgan Shepherd right in front of Jack. Keep this in perspective. In the last 5 races here at Bristol, Morgan Shepherd in that black and silver car, he's either won or broke. He's had 3 wins in the last 5 races, and the 2 times he didn't win wasn't his fault.
And there goes Jack Ingram to the inside, coming off turn number 4. But Morgan Shepherd holds on to that 6th spot.
Only a half mile in length, but because of the banking at almost 35 degrees, you were at a constant velocity all the way around. You never really drop below 100 miles an hour. And with the banking as tall as they are, you can't see more than 4 or 5 car lengths ahead of you when you're in the turns. That's why that makes this track a very unique place to race.
Morgan Shepherd in 97 and Jack Ingram in number 11, going for that 5th position out there. Patty Moise crashing on the front stretch, and another car involved. That's Mike Porter in car number 3. A 2-car accident on the main straightaway. Patty Moise making contact with the wall, and Porter spinning behind her.
She did a very good job after she got in trouble of getting on the binders and steering the car. As she was going backwards, Bob, she maintained control of that car, kept it going as straight as she possibly could, coming off that corner, probably about 95 or 100 miles an hour. She was in heavy traffic. People were trying to get around. Patty was holding her line, and a couple of people came together. Did not see who it was that she was involved with.
Patty was in 16th position, and Mike Porter in number 3, who was also involved, was running in 24th. Now, while we have the time here and the yellow is out again, let's go down to Jerry Punch, and we're very glad to see Robbie Moroso standing alongside.
Robbie, first of all, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just took a real bad lick. I got a few bad bruises, but I think I'll feel more of it in the morning.
You look like you had a pretty good run going. Let's really take a look and see what happened. We'll let you describe what happened here. Here we are. Take a look at the monitor.
I was Brad Teague was running with me, trying to get by me, and he got under me, and just sent me right into the wall before you could see. Before I knew anything, just couldn't correct. Just too late for everything. Just hit the wall. Just real bad. I felt wrecked the car.
Then you come across, and it looks like Max Prestwood comes along, and Max is trying to avoid you, and you get another impact. Ouch, right there.
Yeah, I was hoping nobody was going to hit me, but they did, and I hope he's all right. I feel all right.
Yeah, Max Prestwood is fine. Robbie Moroso, good to see you out of it. I hate to see you out of the race, but good to see you sitting here smiling.
Thank you.
That was Robbie's 4th start in the Busch Grand National Series this year. His best finish was 15th in the Daytona 300. He's only 18 years old. He lives in Madison, Connecticut.
And he can't practice on Thursdays on the big tracks like everybody else does because he's still in high school. But we commented at the top of the show, he spent a significant amount of time at Darlington on the Friday, putting in practice laps late in the afternoon. He put a lot of work in here at Bristol, in among rain showers this weekend also.
We're just about at the 1/4 mark. Next time around, it'll be lap number 50 out of 200 laps that will make up this Budweiser 200. We're going to go back green as the pace car pulls ahead of the field, drops to the pit road, and once again, it'll be Dale Earnhardt showing the way off of corner number 4. And once again, Rusty Wallace, as he has done several times, drops to the inside, but this time he almost loses a position to Mark Martin, who went to the high side and almost pulled off the pass for that 3rd spot around Rusty Wallace. But now Rusty is back on the accelerator and pursuing Brett Bodine. So far, Dale Earnhardt has led every lap of this race.
Brett Bodine would not get almost out-snookered 3 times in a row like that. There is some minor malfunction in the Thomas Brothers double-zero car.
Look at Harry Gant beginning to move back up through the field. Now Larry Pearson, coming off the last yellow, dropped back significantly, but he's back up to 9th spot. And now Harry Gant has moved into 8th position. So both of these drivers who have had bad restarts are finally on the money.
The last time here, we had 10 caution flags. We've had, what, 3 already, and we're not even to the 1/4 point. Now, we just made to the 1/4 point. The laps go by so quickly on a half-mile track. We have gone past 50 laps.
Morgan Shepherd made a pit stop during that caution period and is also working his way up through the field as we continue to watch Harry Gant, who now races with the number 32 machine driven by Dale Jarrett.
Whereas Harry sits on the pole for tomorrow's Winston Cup race, he has not been on a Busch Grand National pole since 1982. He has won a Busch Grand National race on ESPN, substituting actually for Jack Ingram.
Back up front, it is still Brett Bodine chasing Dale Earnhardt. He hangs on to the lead, but Brett Bodine is certainly not letting him get very far ahead. They're separated by only about 2 car lengths. Rusty Wallace still third, followed by Mark Martin, and in fifth now is Jack Ingram.
He really is staying close. I'm surprised, and Bodine is making a move. He's looking to the inside, coming around turn number 2. Can Bodine, he holds the line. Bodine's got a chance as they go down the backstretch.
Let's see how it goes into turn number 3. They're side by side, but Earnhardt with the very slight advantage, about a half car length. Now as they cross the line, it's Bodine who takes the lead. That's lap number 58, so Earnhardt leads the first 57 laps, and Brett Bodine pulls off a slight pass to take the lead on 58, but now Earnhardt gains it back, and look at Rusty Wallace go to the high side of Brett Bodine. Earnhardt back in command, Bodine, and then Wallace, and then Mark Martin.
Now the deal with Mark Martin is, Bob, he is sitting back watching. He hasn't shown the strength to really get up there and mix with them, but Mark feels good about this race. He may be waiting.
Oh, we have a crash. 2 cars involved down in turn number 1. One of them is Donnie Allison.
Elton Sawyer is the other one.
Heavy wall contact again made. Ronnie Silver is also involved in this crash as he spins toward the infield. Donnie Allison had a pretty good shot at the wall up there in turn number 2, and there is the 42 car of Elton Sawyer, which is stopped at the high side of the racetrack.
It looks like that Donnie took the hardest lick, but the car has he had a stop down on the bottom of turn number 2. Donnie, by the way, was in that group with Patty Moise a few laps ago. There you see just the end of it. No way of knowing how it developed. We were all watching the leaders, and there is Donnie on the left, Elton Sawyer on the right. You see Donnie scraping along the inside wall. That's Ronnie Silver spinning mostly tire smoke there on the inside, and oh, just being missed.
So a multi-car incident in turn number 1 and turn number 2, and here we're going to see the impact of the wall that Donnie Allison had. He pretty much backed it in, but hit pretty hard.
It looked like that something had gone wrong mechanically with Sawyer's car, Bob, because there was seemingly no contact between the 2 of them. And you can see that Donnie was spinning and appeared to be either in loose dirt that sometimes gets kicked up on the high side or just debris from Elton's car.
Once again, we are under yellow. It is 61 laps complete out of 200. This is our 4th caution period of the afternoon as we see the safety crew now running to the Elton Sawyer car.
Sometimes television can do peculiar things for you. Elton's staying in the car because he's probably going to try and drive it down the bank. This is not an exaggerated spot. This is 35-degree banking, and that's what it actually looks like.
He loosened the netting on the car early, indicating that he was okay. He wants to get back into the race, and we'll be back with the race after this. "63 laps completed at Bristol International Raceway as we're bringing you Busch Grand National Racing on this Saturday afternoon. Tomorrow, the Winston Cup race from right here at 1 o'clock live.
We have been riding with Brett Bodine. He's been very busy the last few green flag laps. Are you thinking, Brett, or can we talk?
No, go ahead, Larry. What do you got?
Well, that was a pretty exciting sequence. What's the situation? Do you feel like that you're running quicker than Dale?
Yeah, what the situation here is Dale's car is a little loose and mine's a little tight. Now, in the restarts, he can get away from me because his car will turn better in the corner, and I got to wait on it turning, so I can't get back in the gas. But if we run 5, 6, 8 laps, then my car is coming in, and his car is starting to go away, and that's why you see me catch him and, you know, look like I'm faster there after a little bit.
Do George Kennan, your crew chief, and the entire crew think you're going to have to stop one time at least for tires?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We're running a new compound tire here, something a little different we've ever run. They might go all the way, but rather than take the chance, we'll just come in and put 4 tires on.
whatever setup both of you, and matter of fact, let's make it 3 of you, Rusty and Mark, make it 4, come out with on that setup might determine the outcome of this race.
That's exactly it, Larry. You know, we just got to hope that we've got our best set of tires sitting in the pits and the car stays consistent there at the end of the race.
Keep logging away. Talk to you later.
10-4, Larry.
So we'll see whether or not what Brett says indeed comes through. He said that as his car goes further and further into the race, it becomes better, and Dale's gets a little worse. So perhaps we are going to see a more serious challenge now of Brett Bodine on Dale Earnhardt. Brett has already led 1 lap. We'll be back in a moment at Bristol International Raceway. The green flag is coming out just as you rejoin us here at Bristol and the Busch Grand National race. The green coming out on lap number 67. Once again, Dale Earnhardt establishing his superiority, pulls away from Bodine and Rusty Wallace, but Bodine only about 8 or 9 car lengths behind now, as Rusty Wallace is right on Brett Bodine's tail in that 3rd spot. These 3 have run in that order since the drop of the green flag. We haven't seen too many position changes, but boy, it's been close racing. Now they move around the slower car of Brad Teague. Teague was involved in that incident over on the backstretch, but has been able to get back into the race, but they pass him safely going into turn number 1, and 3 cars basically pulling away here as Mark Martin, who's been running 4th, is still in that spot, but he has dropped back considerably on this racetrack.
There was a lap car that was allowed to start on the outside lane all by itself with the green flag. John Linville. We got contact in turn number 4. It's Bobby Dragon.
Makes contact in turn number 4, and he has bent the sheet metal back onto that tire. He's going to be able to go into the pit area, however, and it will not require, now it will, because the tire rolls off of the car and rolls down the backstretch, so we definitely will have a caution period. Let's hope. Oh, Gant hit it directly and damaged his car severely. A tough break for Harry Gant, and that seems to be the way things have been going for Harry Gant this year, not only in Grand National Racing, but in Winston Cup competition. Gant hit that tire solidly and really tore up the front of his car. The wheel, meanwhile, bouncing to the infield, and will be stopping in turn number 4. But look at the damage to Harry Gant's car. What a tough break.
I'll tell you, if there is an accident or a piece of debris out on the racetrack, it doesn't find Harry, it seeks him out. Oh,
just unbelievable. Gant limping to the pit area. They pit on the backstretch as well as the front stretch here, and Harry Gant's pit is in the backstretch. He pulls into that area now, but it's going to be a few laps before they can get the sheet metal bent away and the tires replaced on that car, and Harry can return to competition. This is our 6th, make it 5th caution period of the day, as the original caution was for number 71, Bobby Dragon, and there is the tire that came off of Dragon's car. He made wall contact in the 4th turn, and finally the tire came off, and look at Harry hit it.
Boy, he had nowhere to go. He was in heavy traffic. He was just trying to follow the rest of them there, and he had a choice of either standing on the brakes and maybe spinning into a wall, driving into a fellow competitor, or hope they could sneak by that tire, but it just kept creeping down the track and finally crept right into Harry's path. Jerry is down there with some weather reports.
Well, you can see the Ed Whitaker team trying to pull some of the sheet metal away from the front end of this car. It was a Buick Century a few laps back, and Gant still sitting in the car. You see where the impact of that tire pushed the front end in. That's Wayne Bumgarner, some of the Skoll crew that works on his Winston Cup car, the car that's set on the pole here for this race coming up tomorrow, the Winston Cup show. But they are trying to repair the Ed Whitaker-owned Buick, and apparently they have their work cut out for them.
So Harry Gant sitting hopelessly in the pits as the crew tries to get that car repaired and back out onto the racetrack. 74 laps completed. Back with more in just a moment at Bristol. Bob Jenkins, Larry Nuber, and Dr. Jerry Punch back at Bristol International Raceway for the Budweiser 200 Grand National Race. The top 5, Dale Earnhardt, Brett Bodine, Rusty Wallace, Mark Martin, and Jack Ingram. Harry Gant involved in an incident on the backstretch. He hit a tire that had come off the Bobby Dragon car. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, Harry has climbed out of that Buick. Harry, first of all, you okay? I know you had some ribs banged up and you're still bandaged pretty severely. You all right?
Oh, yeah, it just hit that wheel. I couldn't hear on the radio exactly. They said there was something on the backstretch, a wreck, and I didn't see anything. And I was following the LD, and when he turned, right there was the tire setting right, and I didn't have time to turn the car quick enough.
With the banking here, is it pretty difficult to see? Is visibility pretty difficult at this racetrack?
Yeah, it is. We got, you know, if you got a good spotter to holler out to you, it works okay, though. And, you know, we're accustomed running here a lot, and we look ahead. The Winston Cup drivers, you know, you tend to look all the way across the corners, but still you got to have a spotter to call a place for you.
Speaking of looking ahead, you're on the pole tomorrow with a new track record. You got to feel awfully good about your shot. It's been a while since this team has had this good a run.
Yeah, it has. You know, we hope we're going to be running good now, and we did qualify good. Thanks to the Skull Bandit team and everybody helping on it, you know, and so we're looking forward for a good race tomorrow.
Well, Harry, sorry to see you out of it.
Yeah, me too. We're running awful strong, that little Buick V6, and Ed Whitaker and his bunch done a real good job on the car, and it was super.
That's Harry again.
All right, we gave you the top 5. Let's give you 6 through 10 now. 6th is Mike Alexander. 7th, L.D. Ottinger. 8th is Dale Jarrett in car number 32, followed by Tommy Houston and Morgan Shepherd. Well, Harry mentioned the importance of spotters around the track.
Absolutely essential here at Bristol. There you can see an example of that. Almost everybody is now using two-way radios to communicate with their drivers, but even with the spotters, because you go around this racetrack in about 16 or 17 seconds and you see pavement in front of you all the time as Wallace sneaks underneath Brett Bodine, it's still impossible to call all the shots perfectly as Rusty Wallace moves into the runner-up spot.
I think they touched coming out of turn number 2. In any case, Rusty Wallace has grabbed that 2nd position now. Meanwhile, the Ford of Mark Martin continues to run in 4th position, just kind of waiting and seeing what's going on in front of him. The question that we have is he holding back, waiting for that opportunity, or is the Ford doing all it can do? Morgan Shepherd, meanwhile, continues to climb back toward the front. He pitted earlier in the race, but has moved up through traffic and is now in the top 10. We'll be keeping an eye on him.
Morgan Shepherd is eternally strong. In his very first Grand National race back in 1970, he sat on the pole and led every lap, winning the race. He went on to win 6 more that year, and ever since that moment, Morgan Shepherd has been truly, when he competes in the Busch Grand National Series, one of the people to beat.
Dale Earnhardt, you can see the advantage there over Rusty Wallace. He's opened up several car length advantage. Brett Bodine hanging right back of Rusty Wallace, though. And Mark Martin in that red and white number 31 continues to run in 4 spots. Still anybody's race, although Earnhardt certainly has shown his superiority here in the first 83 laps. He's led all but 1 lap. That lap led by Brett Bodine. Now Brett looking to the inside of Rusty going into turn number 1, but no attempt to pass.
Bobby heard Brett talking about the car being tight. As you can see, as he runs more laps, he begins to loosen up on it. He gets some more traffic on the racetrack, gets some more rubber laid down. He gets up ahead of steam, and once again, Brett Bodine becomes what appears to be, visually, the strongest car on the racetrack. Now, what he has to hope for is that the caution flags, if there are any more, come at just the right time, and if everybody has to pit under green in this race, that he has a good pit stop and then gets the good setup. But now he's going to put the pressure on Rusty Wallace. He is running stronger. He sees Earnhardt beginning to tiptoe away. He's going to be anxious to get around Rusty. There's Brett be following Rusty in the number 90 car.
Dale Earnhardt is setting a pace in excess of 114 miles an hour, and you can see he is opening up a little bit of an advantage over 2nd and 3rd. Bodine once again moving down low on the racetrack on the front straightaway. Just testing Rusty Wallace and seeing if he can pull off the pass. They run nose to tail down the backstretch now, but Rusty a little bit sideways there in turn number 4 as he came through. And once again, Bodine, here he is this time making a challenge. No, he backs off going into turn 1.
Earnhardt the leader, Wallace there in 2nd, Bodine in 3rd. They are all 3 in V6s. Mark Martin, we commented on, running in 4th. He's running a V8. Now, the potential disadvantage for Martin running in 4th is that he feels that normally the V8 slows down a little bit in the latter stages of the race. If what traditionally occurs happens today for Martin, he might be in trouble. But then again, is he holding back? How well are the Hoosiers working? Right now, he's taking a back seat to the V6s.
Just a great race for 2nd position as these two battle for 2nd. Earnhardt has taken off and is really opening up an advantage now. It's about a half a straightaway advantage, but that only amounts to about 3 seconds. L.D. Ottinger, who was in the top 10, as a matter of fact, 7th, has run into some problems. He dropped low on the racetrack last time around, and now he's into his pit on this lap. L.D. Ottinger, car number 2.
91 laps have been completed, and Earnhardt is beginning to pick up the end of the pack in terms of going after slower traffic. Back down in the pits for L.D. Ottinger, the local driver, who's had a pretty rough day, and hand goes up, the gesture of no, I think it's over, and LD's day in front of his home crowd is ending.
We are nearing the halfway point of this race, and there are still 15 cars that are running on the lead lap, but Earnhardt beginning to put now even some traffic between himself and second place Rusty Wallace. The number 31 car of Mark Martin still runs in 4th place, but Jack Ingram in number 11, the Skoll car, is right on Mark Martin's tail, and Mike Alexander and Dale Jarrett are also right there. There's Mark Martin in 31.
4th place, remember. We are approaching the point in the race, the halfway point, where you begin to think about pit stops. Now, theoretically, everybody could go the distance. There is Mike Alexander in the 84 car, running in the top 10 strongly as usual, and Dale Jarrett in the number 32 Bud Light machine, where they normally are, strong running Busch Grand National regulars top 10. We don't expect anybody to go the distance. Everybody will probably try to wait for a yellow flag. The next yellow flag that happens, and Jarrett and Alexander kissing each other at 100 miles an hour around the turn, and Morgan Shepherd moves to the high side. Morgan Shepherd has certainly found his oats, and he is right now sowing them as he goes to the high side of Jarrett. They're lapping Bosco low. Shepherd picks up a position. He'll look to the right side of Mike Alexander. He's still got the line, and Morgan Shepherd is on a string and using the centrifugal force of these 35-degree banks.
98 laps are about to be completed. Now Shepherd has passed Jarrett and sets his sights on Jack Ingram. Ingram running right ahead of him, and Morgan Shepherd is really on the move now, making up for that pit stop. And we have a caution flag. It'll come at the halfway mark at 99 laps. Will be completed next time around, and the word is some debris, I believe, down in turn number 1. Now we're going to see wholesale pit stops, I'll bet you.
Could be a roll of the dice if it's just some minor debris. Will this yellow flag last only 2 laps? Will everybody risk coming in? If everybody comes in, will they kind of stretch the yellow flag out a little bit? Some people are coming in. Here comes Bodine. Jack Ingram is pitting, so 2 of the first 5 cars have ducked into the pits.
And Dale Jarrett has also come in for a pit stop, as has Mike Alexander. All of those cars running in the top 10. But the leader, Dale Earnhardt, electing to stay out. Now he drops to the inside and will pit on the backstretch. So will number 90, Rusty Wallace. By the way, Patty Moise, who was involved in an incident here on the front straightaway a few laps ago, is back in competition. There is Brett Bodine, and there is Dale Earnhardt. Let's go to Jerry.
Both Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace pitting door to door, nose to tail here in the backstretch pits. Right side tires for Earnhardt, part of the Wrangler crew, as well as some of his regular crew, along with Suitcase Jake Elder pitting this car. The Goodrich Chevrolet, they'll have left side tires on the car. Meanwhile, the same way for Rusty Wallace, some of his Kodiak crew, Jimmy Maycar, Barry Dotson in the crew, trying to put tires on that car, as both cars are in the pits. And apparently Bodine now down and away, moving him pit road. Here is Earnhardt making his move. Wallace's car having trouble with the right rear tire. They just about now off the jack they go. Wallace moves down pit road.
Brett Bodine wins the, Dale Earnhardt wins the race out of the pits. Bodine second, Jack Ingram third, then comes Rusty Wallace. At the moment, though, Mark Martin is going to be the leader of this race. He's the first car behind the pace car. And remember, he's one of the 4 drivers in the field running on Hoosier tires.
Have we seen the strategy of this race, at least for Mark Martin, begin to unfold? Will the Hoosier tires go the distance? Probably, but what about the fuel mileage?
Well, we are at exactly the halfway point, and in our 6th caution period of the afternoon. Stay with us. Bristol International Raceway is our location today. Today, Grand National Racing, and tomorrow, Winston Cup Racing. We'll be on the air live at 1 o'clock tomorrow for that Winston Cup race. Here comes Mark Martin finally into the pit area to have some tires changed on that car and some fuel. Let's go to Jerry.
They There was a question mark on Mark Martin's face and the crew of David Lovendahl, the crew chief, as to whether they would change tires or not. They felt possibly the Hoosier tires would go all the way, although this would be an experiment. They decided not to gamble, to come in and change at least right side tires. The car's still in the jack now, moving down the way. Probably a smart move to put fresh rubber on that car here at Bristol.
Now that's going to put Morgan Shepherd in the lead, Larry.
Bob, a smart move to change the tires, but that was an error coming in when they did. They came in much too late. He's going to be at the end of the line. He's lucky to have caught up to the tail of the tandem as we're getting ready to go green this time. That was not a wise pit stop, although I agree with Jerry. Why take the chance in the same set of tires to go 200 laps at Bristol?
We're about to go green once again. Here comes Morgan Shepherd leading the two abreast formation off of corner number 4. Tommy Houston is second in line, followed by Larry Pearson, then Dale Earnhardt, Brett Bodine, Jack Ingram, and Rusty Wallace. Let's see how things shake out as the field begins to spread out going into that first turn. In second. Here's Morgan Shepherd in the lead at the moment. But I have a feeling that things are going to change because that black car there following Larry Pearson, now moving to the inside of Larry Pearson, is Dale Earnhardt, who has been the leader for most of this contest.
Well, Bodine is right behind Earnhardt. Boy, they touch significant. Larry Pearson takes a hard right-hander, gets out of the way. There's Teague moving up the challenge. It's about to comment on Morgan Shepherd. How he got there was that Morgan pitted on lap 48. He's ahead of those 3 cars on your screen right now. Also, Tommy Houston had made some adjustments on lap 17. Way back there, took on gas and tires at that point. But it doesn't seem to have been enough because right now, there goes Dale Earnhardt by and Brett Bodine.
Here come the speedsters. Both Earnhardt and Brett Bodine have moved through traffic and now occupy second and third. Morgan Shepherd, if he doesn't have to have another pit stop, may be tough to beat. He's opened up a bit of a lead here. We're going to see how long it takes Earnhardt to catch up, and then we'll see if Morgan can hold off Earnhardt's challenge.
There's Dale moving to the inside of Larry Pearson. Ooh. They touch on the straightaway, and both of them do an excellent job of steering into the number 1 35-degree bank turn. They turn left, but also straight at the same time.
There once again, second and third position, Dale Earnhardt and Brett Bodine. The leader, Morgan Shepherd, crosses the line, completes lap 110. We've got 90 to go.
And they are moving in rapidly on the leader, Morgan Shepherd. We mentioned Mark Martin. Remember, he pitted late, had to start way at the back. There he is. He's only running in about 20th position, and he's had a very difficult time getting through slower traffic.
We'll go to Jerry Punch, who's with Mark Martin's crew chief.
This is David Lovendahl. David, you came in on the last lap before green. Why did you pit so late?
Well, we wasn't really planning on pitting. We decided to do it in the last minute so that we wouldn't be so far behind.
Well, the pit stop a necessity here at Bristol, but it may, as Gary Newber said, it may have been a costly mistake to wait that long to pit under caution.
Now we're beginning to see a battle for the lead as Earnhardt and Bodine have both caught Morgan Shepherd. There are 12 cars on the lead lap. Mark is the final car on the lead lap, running in 12th position. Let's see how Dale Earnhardt handles this situation. Into turn number 3, and it's still going to be Morgan Shepherd.
Morgan Shepherd is holding everybody back, surprisingly. You can see Larry Pearson moving up.
And a crash, or at least a spin, contact with the wall, I believe, up in turn number 2, the 09 machine of that barrier.
Yeah, I was about to say that this might be Brett Bodine's best chance. He needs to stay tacked right up on the rear spoiler of Dale Earnhardt, because as Dale is occupying his mind with finding the right combination around Morgan Shepherd, Brett may have a chance to pass.
The 09 car of Ed Barrier has moved to the infield, and the car is in turn number 4. I don't know whether he's going to make it to the pit area or not. It appears as if he will. We're not going to have a caution because of that scraping.
Earnhardt is slowing. Earnhardt is slowing in 1 and 2. There goes Bodine around. Larry Pearson goes around. Here comes Rusty Wallace, and Dale Earnhardt in that brand new Chevy has a problem.
Well, he's dropped back to 5th already. He moves up into the groove once again, but there is something obviously wrong with that number 8 machine of Dale Earnhardt. And and the word is that he has no brakes on that car, and this is not a good racetrack to have no brakes. Now Jack Ingram is going to go to the high side of Dale Earnhardt in turn number 3 and steal another position from Dale.
No, Bob, even when you're on the track alone, and Larry Pearson is looking to the inside of Bodine as we continue to watch Earnhardt. Boy, the brakes really holding him back, as you can see. We've had a change of positions up front. Larry Pearson has gotten around Brett Bodine, and now Rusty Wallace, and Bodine appears to be slowing. So 118 laps into the race, and attrition begins to hit the leaders, and Morgan Shepherd suddenly looks good.
So let's restack them for you. It's Morgan Shepherd leading. Larry Pearson, the defending Grand National champion, is second. Rusty Wallace third. Fourth involves a battle, and Ingram takes fourth. Bodine is coming into the pits. Brett Bodine comes into the pits. So we have seen both Bodine and Earnhardt suffer problems here at about the same time. Brett slides to a stop in his pit area. They're going to be changing tires.
Looks like he has a flat.
Well, they're changing the right rear and the right front.
Air may have been going down, going away in that right rear. They start with about 50 or 60 pounds of tire pressure, and once you get out there and start racing, they do grow. Maybe about 10, 15 more pounds of air pressure, particularly in the outer liner, will fill the cars, and that's how they adjust the stagger, or the difference in the outside tires and the inside tires. And of course, Brett was hoping that that would make him faster here in the second half of the race.
Brett Bodine is down a lap. Morgan Shepherd moving through traffic here in turn number 4. Larry Pearson is still second. Ingram third. We'll be right back with more after these messages. We're covering live for you the Budweiser 200 Busch Grand National race from Bristol International Raceway. The lead is held by Morgan Shepherd in car number 97. And there is Dale Earnhardt, who has led the majority of laps in this race, but has fallen off the pace. Perhaps we can get more on that story from Jerry Punch.
This is David Smith, one of the crew members for Earnhardt's Wrangler team, who's helping today. David, what has Dale said to you on the radio? Is he got a brake problem?
He's got some kind of problem with the brake. Something to do with the pedal. We're not real sure. We get in the caution, we'll take a look, see if we can do anything. Not, he'll just ride it out.
Well, it's very difficult to drive a car here in Bristol with no brakes. You've got to be very careful on these 36-degree banks.
Well, another car that's dropping back in competition is Rusty Wallace. He was running fourth, but has dropped back significantly now. So we're seeing the guys who ran up front in the early going all experiencing some kind of a problem. Meanwhile, Morgan Shepherd, who made a pit stop early in the going, is having smooth sailing, at least for the moment. His nearest challenger is Larry Pearson, who's about a half a straightaway behind, and there is Rusty Wallace.
Rusty Wallace, who has never won one of these Busch Grand National races. Of course, he was a big winner up in the Midwest, running not only on pavement but also on dirt. There's Dale Earnhardt right behind Rusty, and that would be a squabble for position because Dale has not lost a lap to the leader. Brett Bodine did come in during that pit stop. Remember, the laps here are only 16 seconds long. He did lose a lap, but Earnhardt remains on the lead lap.
132 laps have been completed. 200 will make up this race. There is Dale Earnhardt now battling with Rusty Wallace for position, and this is for 6th. Side by side into turn number 1. Earnhardt has position number 6.
Wallace's problem appears to be in the engine compartment. It does not look to be a motor problem. He seems to be handling the traffic pretty well, which would indicate it's not a brake problem.
All right, the race summary now showing you that Morgan Shepherd is the leader with 133 laps completed. His margin is about a half second, and the average speed is 63.17 miles an hour. There have been 4 lead changes among 4 drivers. There you can see the reasons for the 6 caution periods that we have had. Robbie Moroso involved in a spectacular accident out in coming off of turn number 2, and Harry Gant also involved in an accident as he ran into a tire that had come off the Bobby Dragon machine. Those out of the race so far include Jimmy Lawson, Max Prestwood, who was involved in the Moroso incident, Bob Shreves, Ed Barrier, Donnie Allison smacked the wall up in 1, Harry Gant ran into the tire, and Elton Sawyer and Robert Ingham have also dropped from competition. There once once again is Rusty Wallace, and we have a car spinning off the down the back stretch. That's Tommy Houston in number 6. The car is to the inside of the racetrack, and now Tommy gets the car righted and underway once again, but it'll bring out our 7th caution period of the day. Tommy was running 5th.
Well, this could be a break, and I underscore triple. A break for the 0-0 of Brett Bodine. He'll be able to move closer to the front, and if he can race past the leader, Morgan Shepherd, maybe he'll get his lap back. It also saves to a degree Mark Martin, who was in jeopardy by about 2 or 3 seconds of being lapped by Morgan Shepherd, and if he has anything left, maybe this will breathe new life into his race. Earnhardt, will he have an opportunity to duck in and see what his problem is? Well, we'll find out here how long this yellow flag lasts, but Shepherd was just getting to the point where he was moving up on the other people in the top 10 to lap them.
Here's a replay of the Tommy Houston incident. Again, it was off of corner number 2. He went sliding down the backstretch, and it appears as if he had contact with another car.
He was way down in the bottom. It was Larry Pollard, I believe, on his right or outside, and it was down on the part of the racetrack that has a sharp angle in it.
So the yellow out once again, and Morgan Shepherd has the lead as we bring you live the Budweiser 200. The beginning of the Formula One season in Rio tomorrow, part of a big auto racing weekend here on ESPN. Today, the Grand National race. Tomorrow, the Winston Cup race from Bristol, and then the Formula One event from Rio de Janeiro. The green has come back out, and Morgan Shepherd is the leader, but look at Rusty Wallace. He's just now coming out of the pits. They have penalized him because of the tire infraction. And he is 1 lap down to the field. There are 9 cars that are now on the lead lap.
Bob, 2 things. Dale Earnhardt appears to be at top speed again. He came in for some adjustments underneath that yellow flag, and he is out, and he is flying. Morgan Shepherd may have to start paying as much attention to the rearview mirror. Brett Bodine is at top speed, but he has not gotten his lap back. And by the way, for that Formula One race, we do have a rundown on the top 5 qualifiers. The Williams team of Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet are 1 and 2. Ayrton Senna, running the new Hondas this year, is in Honda Power, that is in 3rd. Teo Fabi, familiar to many American fans, is 4th. And Alain Prost, the twice defending champion, is 5th on the grid. And Terry Boutsen, moving over to Benetton, his biggest chance ever this year, is 6th on the grid.
And we'd like to invite you to be with us at 7:30 tonight Eastern Time here on ESPN for a special Speed Week previewing the Formula One season. Brett Bodine is trying to get his lap back. He's right behind Morgan Shepherd. And if he should get around Morgan and then we have a yellow, Brett will make up the entire lap that he lost earlier in the pits.
Bob, it's very, very late for Brett. We're almost at lap 150, and it takes no more than 15 or 20 minutes to go 20 laps here at Bristol. And Shepherd moves over. Bodine's got a chance, and Brett Bodine is going to be on the lead lap. Is he going to number 3?
Or is he?
Yeah, he's got him.
Side by side, they come through turns 3 and 4, and Bodine does have the faster line at the bottom of the racetrack. Morgan is obviously aware that Brett has gotten his lap back, but while all this is occurring, Larry Pearson, the number 21 car, has gotten right in on the back bumper of Morgan Shepherd, and Jack Ingram is right there also in 3rd spot. So the drivers that we saw up front in the early going have all fallen off the pace, and we have 3 more that are now going for position, and we could have a 4 and 5 make it 6-car battle as they begin to catch up now.
We have a motorcar race. The leader is Shepherd. Larry Pearson with 50 laps to go. 3/4 of the race is done, is 2nd. Jack Ingram is a challenging 3rd. Dale Jarrett is always up there. He's up there again, and Mark Martin is 5th.
And then not too far behind him is Dale Earnhardt. There, though, is the Mark Martin car, number 31. He started in 2nd position in the Ford.
Earnhardt is slowed again. Now the car is slowing visibly. He had it for a bit. Maybe he's got that pedal problem back.
Shepherd continues to set the pace. Brett Bodine would like to see a yellow here so that he can circle the entire track. He is on the lead lap now, but just ahead of the leader. As again, we have 9 cars that are still on the lead lap. Make that 10 cars since Bodine has gotten his lap back. We have 10 cars now on the lead lap.
Bob, the guy in that quartet right there, remember the leader, Bodine, is a lap down, actually the distance of the racetrack. It was a crafty individual in these long Busch Grand National races is Jack Ingram. This is one of the strongest I've ever seen Jack run in recent years on the Bristol racetrack. He may have something left. Now, Larry Pearson, despite coming into contact momentarily with Dale Earnhardt earlier in the race, has recovered nicely, but I like the race that Ingram is running, but again, I want to emphasize we're inside 50 laps to go, and it may be getting late for the Ironman.
Well, Jack Ingram won a race, Grand National race here at Bristol, the second race of the year back in 1982, and he is the leader in Grand National points.
Well, it goes without saying as they approach Rusty Wallace. It's kind of hard to believe that we're saying he's slower traffic. He wasn't the first half of this race. As we zero in on Jack Ingram, Bodine could really use a yellow, and it's got to come realistically in the next 15 laps, because if it comes in the last 20 laps at Bristol, you can't pass 6 or 7 cars in 20 laps here.
Now we're beginning to see some tire smoke off the Morgan Shepherd leading car. Bodine and Shepherd go high, going around Patty Moise in turns number 3 and 4. 159 laps completed now. 41 to go.
Bob, my opinion is we are looking at up front, let's just scrap Bodine for the time being, 5 evenly matched cars. Nobody in that group, and Mark Martin has moved up to 5th, by the way, appears to have an edge. Shepherd's got the edge because he's in the lead right now, but it's not because he's overwhelming them with the speed on the racetrack. Everybody seems to be evenly matched. A mistake, which doesn't normally happen with the 5 people we have up front, could be the difference.
Look at this great battle for second position. It is Pearson, followed by Ingram, and then Jarrett. They're all following Morgan Shepherd, and they are going at it tooth and nail out there.
I want to repeat one statistic one more time. The last 5 times that Morgan Shepherd has raced here, that spans 3 years, he's missed a race in there. The last 5 times, he's either won or failed to finish. Jack Ingram, who was the national champion in 72, 73, 74, 82, and 85, but a penalty kept him from getting another crown a year ago.
And Larry Pearson, who won the Busch Grand National point standings last year, is running in second. A little bit earlier in the weekend, we had an opportunity to talk with many-time champion Jack Ingram.
You've been around a long time, Jack. And last year, you had a year that I suppose one adjective that could be used would be humbling. What goes through your mind when you have a season like that? Do you still learn things after 20 plus 30 years of driving?
No. I'd race a certain way, and last year I was racing a certain way that I've always raced and aggressive, and got penalized heavily for it. I'm not going to change anything that I do, and if I get penalized again, I'll just get penalized.
That's the comment from Jack Ingram. And Morgan just passed Brett Bodine to get his, to drop Brett to a lap down.
And Jack Ingram has moved into second. Larry Pearson slowed. Dale Jarrett has moved to third. And I mentioned earlier that if anybody seemed to have a chance as we look at Rusty Wallace pulling into the pit area, the garage area in the infield behind the chain link fence, he's out. Ingram might have been the guy who could possibly challenge Morgan Shepherd, and now we'll see. Now he's got Bodine between himself and the leader.
Well, a tough break for Rusty, who came into this weekend with high hopes. He won his first Winston Cup race on this track last year. He's driving the car that is sometimes driven by Haskell Willingham, but Rusty has dropped out of competition. There you're looking at the second place car of Jack Ingram, number 11, following Brett Bodine, but remember, Brett now is again a lap down.
Bob, Grand National News, by the way, that 90 car, the period on that apparently is going to be Max Barrier's ride for the rest of the regular Busch Grand National season.
Let's go down to Jerry Punch, who is with Rusty Wallace.
Rusty, you seem to have a pretty good race going, then the car went away and started slipping a little bit. What happened?
Well, it's a brand new car. It's a 105-inch little small car. In the first half of the race, we're looking real good. We came in and put 4 tires on it, and they were pretty fresh tires. This car evidently is pretty hard on the tires, and it blistered all 4 tires, as a matter of fact, in like 40 laps. We came back in and took a look at it, and it started vibrating real bad, and I couldn't see any sense of keep on going when it was vibrating like that and taking a chance and crashing the car or something. possibly hamper my run tomorrow on the 500. We're sitting on the front row for that, and I don't want to do anything to affect that car right now. So I decided to park it.
Looks like Morgan Shepherd's pretty strong. Can anyone handle Morgan right there now?
Well, I don't think Morgan's strong. I just think he's leading at the point. I believe the 3 strongest cars were myself, Earnhardt, and the 00 car. I just got caught on tires right now, and that's about it. If it wasn't for that, I thought I could have won the race.
Well, that's Rusty Wallace out of it here at Bristol.
But he'll be in contention for the Winston Cup race tomorrow at 1 o'clock live here on ESPN. While we were talking to Rusty, the 31 car of Mark Martin passed Larry Pearson, putting Mark in 4th and dropping Pearson to 5th.
You can see that Larry Pearson has a grizzly bear underneath him. Commented that he had slowed a few laps earlier. Either the stagger's gone away or maybe he's got just a little bit of air leaking out, but looks to be a tire problem on Pearson as Mark Martin moves up another position.
And there is Dale Earnhardt passing Larry, and that is the battle for 5th position. So Dale now into 5th with 25 laps to go. And Larry, the question I think we need to answer is, can Morgan Shepherd hold off and win this race, or will Jack Ingram and Dale Jarrett be able to challenge him? And we will answer that question when we come back to the Budweiser 200 as we have for you the top 5 with 25 laps to go. After rain this morning here in Bristol, a beautiful afternoon and some beautiful racing also. It's a battle for the lead now as Jack Ingram has caught Morgan Shepherd and is really putting some heat on him. It is Ingram going to the high side of the racetrack, looking high, but not able to make the challenge at the moment.
Just 15 laps to go. Jack Ingram and his 31 career wins in Busch Grand National Racing. He's ranked #1 in that category versus Morgan Shepherd with his 11 career wins. He's 5th, but of course Morgan runs an abbreviated schedule. Jack follows this trail up and down the East Coast, running the short tracks from the short third miles to the super speedways like Daytona.
And the 31 and 21 cars are having a battle back for 5th position. That involves Mark Martin and Larry Pearson. You can see Martin there in the red and white Ford, followed by Pearson in the 21 Chevrolet.
And they've just gone around Brett Bodine, so either Brett's got a problem or he's given up the ghost. With only 15 laps to go, it's really not worth risking it.
Well, we're seeing a battle of the V6s here for the lead as both Shepherd and Ingram have V6s under their hoods. Jack Ingram has already won a race this year on the Busch Grand National Series.
Bob, let's talk a little bit about how easy Shepherd is making this look. See how difficult a time Ingram is having giving up. Morgan is incredibly busy right now. You go all the way around here in only 16 seconds. Most of the time, you're on the track at Bristol, a clean 8 seconds. All you see is a wall of pavement in front of you. And you have to make many split-second decisions when you're out there all by yourself. He is picking his way through slower traffic. Just 10 laps to go. Shepherd is doing an excellent job. His experience on this track is also a factor that simply cannot be overstated.
So you're answering the question that I asked before the break. You think Morgan has this thing in hand?
Yeah, it's interesting because Jack's faster, but Morgan, the veteran that he is, the miles he's had on this racetrack, he's not going to let Ingram go by, even with a faster car. He's going to take an error on his behalf. That is Morgan.
We have 7 cars that are on the lead lap. Been a tremendous race here this afternoon, just giving you a preview of what we expect tomorrow. The Winston Cup race here at Bristol that begins live at 1 o'clock Eastern time here on ESPN. Now we have 192 laps completed. Coming around, this will be 193, and there'll be 7 to go for Morgan Shepherd and Jack Ingram.
Jack Ingram's got to be licking his chops, though, because he doesn't all that often have an opportunity to beat a Winston Cup regular. And Morgan, of course, came from the Busch Grand National Series, and he's probably most identified with this series in his career, but he is a Winston Cup driver right now. And we commented that on some of these super fast racetracks, oftentimes the Winston Cup regulars lay it on the Busch Grand National regulars. So Jack would really like to win this one, but it is just an absolute 10-foot high hurdle to scale.
5 more laps to go. 5 to go. The cars on the lead lap are besides Morgan Shepherd and Jack Ingram, the number 32 car of Dale Jarrett, followed by Dale Earnhardt, then number 31 Mark Martin, and 21 Larry Pearson. That is the best battle on the track right now for 5th and 6th position. They're really going at it. It is Mark Martin and Larry Pearson. Pearson sneaking to the inside in turn number 3. Hoosier tires on the Martin car. Goodyear's on Pearson. Pearson has that 5th position.
And Pearson appeared to have been in a wounded duck a few laps ago. He's certainly not capable of running with the leaders, but he's better than the majority of the field, as you just saw right there. Morgan Shepherd, by the way, as we continue to watch Pearson, just cranked off a perfect turn 3, turn 4, turn 1, and turn 2. He went to the high side of 3-lap cars. You can see the resultant difference, about 6 or 7 car lengths. He just won the race, I think, on the last pass of the front stretch.
There is the interval between first and second. 1.5 laps to go now. Dale Jarrett in car number 32 has had an excellent race. He is running in 3rd spot. Meanwhile, we go back to the leaders. They have taken the white flag. It's going to be Morgan Shepherd and Jack Ingram going for it. It appears as if Morgan Shepherd is going to be able to hold him off. There is going to be no traffic between Shepherd and the finish line. Morgan Shepherd has it off of turn number 4. Ingram will finish 2nd. A good race. And the number 32 car of Dale Jarrett finishes 3rd.
Ingram is on his way probably to another national championship. He came in as the points leader. And there's Martin and Tommy Houston side by side.
Martin won.
Houston, didn't he lose a lap, I think, a little bit ago when he spun on that backstretch? He was one lap down, yeah. But commenting that Ingram, he came in as the points leader. He's the only driver in Busch Grand National Racing who's finished in the top 10 all 5 races this year.
So Morgan Shepherd makes it 2 in a row for this race. He won it last year. He wins it again this year. We'll be back to Victory Lane and Dr. Jerry Punch after this. Morgan Shepherd's car undergoing the post-race inspection by the NASCAR officials. Will show you the top 10 while he gets that inspection completed and moves to Victory Lane. Shepherd the winner with Ingram 2nd. Dale Jarrett a fine run 3rd. Dale Earnhardt led most laps, but he finished 4th, and Larry Pearson came on to finish 5th. 6 through 10, Mark Martin, who started 2nd. Jimmy Hensley finishes 7th, and Mike Alexander 8th. Rick Mast was 9th, and Brett Bodine, who also led 1 lap of this race and put up a gallant challenge until late in the event, falls back to finish 10th.
Shepherd was the leader in the winning percentage in the Busch Grand National in 1986. He won 4 of the 14 races that he entered. That's a winning percentage of 28. He was the best in the league on that. And one of the wins, as Bob mentioned earlier, was right here in Bristol. This is a strong racetrack for him, but we commented several times during the broadcast that the Busch Grand National Series is strong for Morgan. It must hurt a little bit, Bob, to be so good in a division, but the idea is to move on. He obviously cannot jeopardize his Winston Cup status with rides fulfilling every single one of the races on the Busch Grand National Series, but gotta hurt because he's so good when he comes down here.
Well, you can see Morgan has made his way out of the car and is waiting for the car and himself to be allowed into Victory Lane. As far as lap leaders are concerned, we had 4. Dale led the most laps, 99. Brett Bodine led 1, and the number 31 car of Mark Martin also led a lap. There you can see he led 97 of the 200 laps. His margin of victory about 0.5, about a half a second. The average speed has moved up to 73.77 miles an hour after we had several yellows in the first 3 quarters of the race. There were 4 lead changes among 4 drivers.
A comment about pit stop strategy also. Shepherd pitted earlier than everybody else. Why did everybody wait so long?
All right, now Morgan is beginning to make his way toward Victory Lane, and that winner interview will be coming up right after these messages. The Budweiser 200 Grand National Race from Bristol International Raceway in Tennessee is over. There you can see the top 5. Morgan Shepherd wins for the 2nd year in a row, with Jack Ingram padding to his points lead now. Dale Jarrett finishes in 3rd position. Dale Earnhardt, who led most of the race and the early going, was 4th, and then Larry Pearson. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, in Victory Lane with Morgan Shepherd. First of all, Morgan, congratulations. They bring your Buick in here beside you. We'll slide back so we don't get run over by the car that did the work today. Morgan, congratulations on a super run.
Well, thank you, Jerry. The car just worked well all day, and you know, Dennis Fisher does our Buick V6s, and they didn't nobody have a big enough hook to catch this Dennis Fisher Buick today.
You made a pit stop early on. Was that the strategy to come in early and make the tire change as opposed to waiting like Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace did for later in the race?
Well, that was too, but we had a problem. Our car was too low. The tires was rubbing the fenders in the corner and slowing the car down considerably. And we raised the car up, and it freed it up, but it really needed to be raised up a little bit more. We could have went faster if we'd raised it up one more time, but we elected not to change tires because the car wasn't slowing down on these tires. Goodyear really give us a good compound for this race. Anytime you can run 200 laps without changing tires, that's a good tire for the track.
Well, let's get the rest of the Shepherd clan in before we continue with the interview. This is Sonia, Morgan's wife, and this is Shanda, the 9-month-old edition, little girl, with her racing cap on, and they don't miss a trick, do they? And Shanda, 9 months of age, beautiful little blue-eyed girl. And Morgan, how about tomorrow? You've had some rough luck this year, but that Quaker State car has got to be looking for a good run here tomorrow.
Well, the Quaker State Buick is really running well, and we've learned a lot from this race. This here should help us for tomorrow, and I feel like we're going to have a good day tomorrow.
Well, you've had some rough luck. This is a good track, though, for you. You know, you've got 12 Busch Grand National wins. 4 of them have come here at Bristol. But tell us about this track. I mean, is it the kind of track where you can run the car hard all day tomorrow for 500 laps?
Well, it's the kind of track that you got to take care of the car, but yet you got to be flat out. You just got to really work traffic. I love it. It's a tough track. You pace inside, outside. You know, it's just a great track to race on.
Well, Morgan Shepherd, 45 years of age, captures the Budweiser 200 here at Bristol International Raceway.
And as Jerry mentioned, this was his 12th Busch Grand National victory, his 73rd start of his career. Well, we had some very exciting moments in this race just concluded. This was the most spectacular accident. It involved 3 cars, 25 of Robbie Moroso and 75 of Brad Teague, and then Max Presswood will join the melee later.
Difficult call to say whether or not that was a racing accident or what. There's Morgan Shepherd right between. He threads the eye of the needle, as does Ingram, who finishes second. That's how they finished. Shepherd on the left was first, and Ingram on the right was second. Here comes Mike Alexander looking for a hole. L.D. Ottinger and Alexander share a hole as they go through. Dale Jarrett just barely escapes. Jimmy Hensley on the high side. Bobby Dragon, but for Max Presswood, who was caught up in the debris on the high side of turn 2, just down to your right, the track there coming out of turn number 2. He has nowhere to go.
And then Bobby Dragon lost a wheel. It was rolling down the backstretch, and Harry Gant fell victim.
Yeah, LD moved out of the way, and